Race starts can make or break your entire race. And even still, most cyclists still underestimate the importance of the race start. As a retired World Cup professional cross-country mountain bike racer, I've taken my fair share of hole shots, and I've also gotten involved in start line pileups. But over the years, I've been able to learn what really separates the best from the rest when the light turns green. The first tip I have for you is to really make sure that you're picking your starting position carefully. Obviously, everyone knows you want to start as close to the front of the race as possible, so there's less people you have to pass. And that makes sense. However, you usually don't get to pick if you start at the front or at the back of the race. You do get to pick if you start on the left or the right. When they call you up, you can line up anywhere. You need to make sure that you're accounting for where the first choke point is in the race. Let's just say it's a long starting straight into a sharp left-hand corner. You would want to line up on the right side of the field, given that it's very likely that there's going to be a crash on the inside of that left-hand corner. Similarly, you want to make sure that you're not lining up behind someone who you know has bad starts. Say you've lined up behind someone before and they missed their pedal. Never line up behind them again. Seriously, if you're traveling, say, 10, 15, 20 hours to get to this race, don't leave anything up to chance when you can control that. Be prepared for people to literally push you out of your spot. I remember I was at a race one time and Ryan Standish, an absolute legend, got called up a couple spots behind me. We were starting all the way at the back. We had a horrible random call up. Ryan gets called up, one or two people after me, pushes me out of my spot and says, "Hey mate, we're just gonna shoot up the left side here into the top 10 together." 10 seconds into the race, there's a huge pile up. I get stuck behind it and Ryan Standish sails on past in what used to be my spot until I gave it to him. So on that day, I realized next time I was going to be the one doing the pushing. Don't let someone push you out of your spot. If you have a good one, push them back, even if it's before the race actually starts. Many racers carry full water bottles on lap 1, and that is honestly a big mistake. If you're doing a 5 or 8 or even 10 lap XC race, you're never going to go through all of that water on your first lap, a full water bottle. That weighs almost 700 grams. And that is like the difference between riding a $500 wheel set versus a $3,000 wheel set. It makes almost 10 seconds of a difference up the first climb. And so what you can do is you can just take your water bottle at the first feed zone. That'll help you get out of the start that little bit faster, and that really does make a difference. Later in the race, I recommend taking half full bottles every lap versus taking a full bottle every other lap. It's the same amount of hydration, and you're just carrying less weight. This next tip brings us outside into my wife and I violating the HOA policy by riding our bikes around. A lot of people will literally start a race by being on the brakes like this. And so they say 3, 2, 1, go. They let off the brakes and then sprint all the way down the start straight with their finger on the brakes like this. And you don't want to do that because that can slow you down. If your reaction time is even slightly slow, that could mean you get passed by a few extra riders before the single track. Also, you don't want to be going down the starting straight with your finger on the brakes like this because, one, that means you can't sprint quite as hard. Having all 5 fingers on the bars gives you that little bit more leverage. However, even more importantly is the mental aspect of that. You don't want to be having your fingers on the brakes like, uh-oh, what if something happens and I have to slow down and someone in front of me crashes? That isn't how you want to be thinking. You want to have all 5 fingers on the bars and be committed to taking that whole shot or getting in that single track as far forward as you can. This next tip brings us outside, and I'm out here with my beautiful ginger wife over here, Gwen. And we're not going to do this moving because I've heard that crashing your wife out on her brand new road bike is not great for your marriage. So this next tip is about how you can really basically pass someone without having to actually pedal any harder. So right now you can see Gwen is ahead of me, right? She is ahead of me, but I'm not going to move forward at all. I'm just going to put my elbow in front of her. So I didn't even have to pedal at all. Now I'm in front of Gwen. You see, and what you can even do is you can push off of your competitor like that, and you can essentially push them behind you. Sorry, I'm stumbling because I have a broken foot. A very experienced racer will oftentimes just put their elbow right back in front of yours. So go ahead, Gwen. So it can often devolve into a battle of who's trying to put their elbow in front of the other person. And that can get very dangerous, especially if you're moving very fast. So I don't recommend doing that right at the start of the race. You can literally cause a pileup, but especially, maybe lap 1 or later into the race on the last lap, that is fair game. The next tip I have for you is don't be afraid to run. If you're coming up on a bottleneck and you can see that the people in front of you are already starting to get off their bikes so they can run, 9 times out of 10, you want to do the same. I know that as a mountain biker, we kind of have that sense of pride of like, yeah, I was able to ride all of the technical sections. I never had to put a foot down or anything like that. And I get it, but you have to keep in mind that the priority is winning the race, not cleaning all the technical sections. And so a lot of the time what you can do is the second you see people in front of you getting off to run a particular section, if you get off quickly, then you can just run through the bushes, maybe 2-3 feet off of the trail, and you can pass sometimes 5 or 10 people in one move. I remember there was one collegiate race that we did. I must have passed 10 or 15 people in one single corner by doing that because there was a big bottleneck right in front of me. I got off my bike instantly, ran through the bushes just off of the trail, and maybe like one person got mad at me for that, but it's not against the rules. It's a big missed opportunity to just be staying on your bike because you want to feel that sense of accomplishment for having cleaned all of the technical sections. So that's all I have. These are the starting tips that brought me from NICA races all the way up to the Elite Men's Mountain Bike World Cup. Feel free to use them and go ruin someone else's race. Longtime viewers of the documentary series are probably wondering where I've been, and that's definitely a fair question. I did kind of disappear. Basically, I retired from elite mountain bike racing and went to graduate school, then met my wife, moved across the country a couple times, started working a desk job, got married, things along those lines, functional adult stuff, I guess you could say. But I realized that I can't just make a clean break from cycling. I have enough knowledge stored up in my head, even if I don't have the time or the money to be able to go do it full time anymore. I have enough to where I think I can share with the cycling community. And also, if people are willing to watch Dylan Johnson videos where he's talking about Aero gravel hydration packs and somehow has hundreds of thousands of subscribers, I think that I probably have something to share as well. I broke my foot recently, so I am now recovering. I have a lot more time to go over this kind of thing. And yeah, that's all I got. So make sure to like, make sure to subscribe. Someone needs to save XC. Thanks.